This is Michael Kowalski, writer and performer of Mothman, True Story, and you are listening to the Unbelievers podcast. I know you wouldn't like it.
There were several groups. One of the principal ones was the reptilians from the Orion complex.
Without any exaggeration, it was like being on fire inside.
Rats were eating you up inside.
This stuff was in my mouth. It felt like it was 500 degrees. It was unbelievably hot.
My first question would be, were you a member of the Church of Satan, a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan? I don't understand.
There's always an argument for everything. You know, just because somebody can fake something doesn't necessarily mean it's
war, and we found a life form. And that's when I started shitting my pants.
So for the person who called, I am carrying an alien.
An alien baby recovered right here, okay?
Okay.
Something is happening. What is it? That's the question. So do UFOs exist? It depends on what you mean exist.
Phoenix, Arizona, March 1997. The site of one of the biggest mass UFO sightings in American history. An event witnessed by thousands, but denied by the government as simply aerial flares. Nearly 20 years later, this enduring mystery would inspire a filmmaker to create a unique and compelling film about the strange events surrounding this incident. And we're not talking about Turner Clay. Tonight, the Unbelievers podcast welcomes the man behind this project in a rare interview, delving into everything involved in making this found footage new classic come to life. A viral marketing campaign, multiple copycats, confusing the Department of Justice. All the answers are here. So join us now as we sit down with the man himself, the writer and director of the only good Phoenix Lights film, The Phoenix Incident. It's Keith Arem, right here on the program, where you continue to learn to unlearn everything you know. Hello and welcome to the Unbelievers podcast. I'm your host, Russ Ryan, and joining me as always is my co-host, Drea Mora. Hello, Drea.
Hello, Russ.
And our soundboard engineer and producer, Rob Oakey.
Holy shit.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Drea and Rob? How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing great, and we got a little bit different episode tonight. This is something we do a lot. We have an interview, a big-time interview at that. I'm really excited.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I seriously am. It was such a surprise to get to do this, so this is great.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking to writer and director and video game industry legend Keith Arem, and we came across this because if you follow the show, we watched the movie The Phoenix Incident a couple of weeks ago for our Unbeliever Movie Night on Saturday night, and he popped in to the chat on Discord of us watching the movie, did a little Q&A, and so we asked him, I mean, he directed this great Phoenix Lights found footage movie, and he agreed to be on.
Dude, I was nervous when I realized, I think when we all kind of made the realization at the same time that PCB in the Discord chat was somebody like, do you have something to do with the movie? Because he was like, feel free to ask any questions if you need any info. And then they're like, yeah, I directed the film. Like, oh, shit. Welcome. I hope we don't hurt your feelings tonight.
Yeah, and then we looked up PCB Productions, and little did we know that this guy had an awesome list of projects that he had worked on in the past.
Oh yeah.
So it just worked out so cool.
And I'm so glad that the Unbelievers picked the movie that we were going to watch, because usually when we're doing the movie nights, we're picking a crappy movie and it's like fun to make fun of. But when we were doing the episode on the Phoenix Lights and the different movies that came of it, I remember we were watching the trailers, and there was one where I'm like, dude, I don't know, man, this one seemed really good. Like, I've never seen this trailer before, but if I did, that's the one that I would want to watch, and that's the one that they picked. Thank God.
Yeah, thank you, poll resulters, because this would not happen if it wasn't for just a couple of people picking that on the poll. But
a couple of people.
Let's just get into it. Well, most people want to do others, so even when we put what movie you want to watch,
True.
Of course, everyone wants to put their others. Thank you for doing that. So let's get into it now, because I'm excited to talk to him. Here's our interview with Keith Arem. Tonight's guest is director Keith Arem. Keith is the president of Los Angeles-based PCB Productions and PCB Entertainment, and he's also one of the leading creative directors and producers in the game industry, specializing in talent performance, dialogue production, writing, sound design, and music, having served as the director of audio for Virgin Interactive Entertainment and Electronic Arts Pacific, and most importantly, to the Unbelievers. Keith is the director and writer of the 2015 film The Phoenix Incident, a documentary found footage film about 4 men who go missing during the Phoenix Lights incident of 1997. Welcome to the Unbelievers podcast, Keith Arem. Hello, Keith.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. This is an honor right now.
Yeah, it was a real surprise to have you actually in the movie night with us, which we weren't expecting initially. But this has been awesome.
It was cool. I got a notification that there was this screening going on for Phoenix. It was like on Twitter, and someone said, "Are you part of this?" I said, "Nah, I will be." And I found the Discord, and I jumped in, and you guys were just like going away. I was like, hey. And it was cool. It's always great. I mean, when someone finds the film was, this independent film that was sort of my film school, moving from video games into learning how to be a film director. And so we did this thing on a really shoestring budget, and there were so many weird things that happened along the way. And then it just is becoming this bit of a cult movie now, which is great. And all the actors who were in it at the time weren't as well known as they are now, but you get Troy Baker in Last of Us, and you get Yuri Lowenthal's Spider-Man, and Travis Willingham and Liam are now part of Critical Role. So suddenly, everyone knows it. So it blows the sort of mockumentary found footage idea of this being real, but it was fun. It was a good experience.
Well, it's such a great choice because they're all such great actors in it. They are convincing, but you don't know them. You don't immediately look at them and go, "Oh, that's a guy from this. That's a guy from this." It keeps that found footage aesthetic intact as far as that goes.
Yeah, it was a challenge.
Oh, as far as the movie goes, though, it's really obvious that there was a lot of care put in the making of the Phoenix Incident. So can you tell us about your interest in how your interest in the paranormal and UFOs started?
Wow. That's a lot. Well, I grew up in Arizona. I grew up in Tucson, and out in Tucson, there's so much military and other activity in the skies constantly that you're just seeing all sorts of crazy stuff that's happening. And I even remember as a kid, there was a fireworks festival going on for the 4th of July, and I'm with my dad on the top of this bank building. We got this beautiful view of the desert, and we're seeing all the fireworks getting ready to go. And there's this ship, this craft with these lights that look like it's rotating around in a circle. And this thing is just slowly coming towards us, really, really slow, but right there at sunset. And I point to my dad, and my dad kind of looks at it and scoffs, and then he looks and he goes, "No," and he starts doing it, and some other people are there, and all of a sudden a whole crowd is there, and this thing is just rotating around and just coming straight for us. And for a good 10, 15 minutes, I remember, I was like, I'm like 10, 12 years old, whatever I am. I just remember like this feeling like, oh my God, I'm finally seeing a UFO. I'm actually seeing something as a kid. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, it's really slow. It's going on there, and these lights are in the sky. And about 10 minutes go by, and I start to hear the sound of a Cessna engine. And as this thing gets closer, I realize it's a fixed-wing airplane that has these LED lights on the bottom of the wings, and it's saying Happy 4th of July. But because it was coming to us from an angle, it just looked like the lights were going around. So in this one moment, I had this perfect opportunity to see freaking alien, and then I got just debunked right away, right? So I think as a kid I always had this fascination, and I loved Alien and Blade Runner and any kind of sci-fi and other things. But then I'm also seeing things and having that mystery of going out in the desert and wondering what these lights are on the sky. So in 97, actually, I was in college, and I used to go back and forth to see my folks out in Arizona. I was going to school out here to get my degree, and I started working in the music industry, and I got a recording contract. I was in the band Biohazard, and then we became Contagion back in the 90s. And so while I was recording and doing stuff, I ended up coming back and back and forth to Arizona. And then by 97, I got out of school and then went out and would continue to do shows and other things. So I'm coming back from Arizona on one of these trips, and someone calls me and says, "Did you hear what's going on in the skies about over Phoenix. And I had just been through Phoenix. Like literally I was on the road and had just missed it. And I said, no, I had no idea what's going on. And everyone's talking about these lights. And months later, this whole mystery kind of unravels. And even though I was fascinated by it, it happened in my home state and I knew all these people who witnessed it, I just never really knew about it. So years later...
Well, I was going to say, Unsolved Mysteries seemed to be the one that blew the lid off of as far as, I think, national exposure. Were you a fan of Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah, well, that was one of the. I didn't actually see that one until years afterwards. That was one of the main things. There was a USA Today article, Unsolved Mysteries, and there was a couple other reports that were out there. And it was funny because I was working back in 2009. Or so. I was working on one of the Call of Duty titles, and I was working with a military consultant, and he was asking me about, where I grew up, and I was telling him about Arizona, and a lot of these military and Air Force guys came from Arizona, or at least served there. And he said, "Oh, do you know about the Phoenix Lights?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Everybody knows about Phoenix Lights, especially from Arizona." He goes, "No, but do you know what really happened?" And I was like, do tell.
Okay. I didn't put that together that, you've having this experience, of course, directing the whole Call of Duty line, that you would be talking to military experts about stuff. Is that where the, was it Project Snowbird element came into your movie?
Well, actually, what was interesting about Snowbird was that Snowbird, everyone knows about Operation Snowbird in a sense that this is usually when the 104th from Maryland ends up coming out to Arizona during the cold months, and they'll serve time there because it's just easier to maintain the planes and do whatever that's there. But what was really fascinating about this was, and that story actually ended up coming from the vice mayor. And there's an interview in the movie. You heard her, Frances Barwood, was talking about it. That interview was not fake. Like, that was actually completely unexpected. She started talking about it, and she starts talking about Operation Snowbird, and about this distraction operation. And it kind of sidetracks a little bit of what we were doing on the film, because we shot that on the 11th or 12th day of shooting, and that ended up becoming the whole basis of what we were trying to do with this pilot turning state's evidence about what happened. And that's what we had heard. We had heard that there were pilots that had been scrambled out of Luke Air Force Base, that they had encountered these lights, that they were shaken. There was another report that there was a pilot that had seen something and they had engaged some kind of craft. And so that was sort of the basis of what we were hearing from the military side. And then when we met with Frances Barwood and she starts talking to us about how they were being told this was a distraction operation to keep people away from the actual engagement that the military was doing, I was like, that's cool. That's what the movie's going to be.
That it does make the movie especially fascinating, that the actual Phoenix Lights are explained as just a distraction, being the flares that a lot of people did claim to see, but that the actual event was going on elsewhere, very close by. Yeah.
And that's kind of controversial too, right? Because everyone swears that they saw the craft, and other people are like, no, it's just flares, right? And so the movie kind of says, well, both were right to some extent. You did see flares, but those are the distraction from the craft. Because people did see multiple crafts. Some people say they saw a mile-long ship, and other people say they saw individual craft. So I met with about 1,000 eyewitnesses over the period of making the movie, and then going on to all the different conferences and film festivals. And it was wild because when we premiered the movie in the United States, because there was a different European cut that's the one that got bootlegged, and that's a different cut of the movie. But the U.S. one premiered at the International UFO Congress in Phoenix with the guys who were actually trying to debunk the whole viral campaign that we did. And we did this big screening for like 3,000 to 5,000 people. And then we did this big Q&A afterwards. And we were outside, at sunset. And we were trying to get the military, because I have a lot of connections in the military. So we were trying to get the Luke Air Force guys or the Davis-Monthan guys to do a flare drop from some of the A-10s. Wow. And they were well, you don't have to have this clearance. And we were going to go up and do this whole thing. Right after our showing, all across the Phoenix skyline, they did a flare drop.
Wow, it was great.
And everyone's coming out. Everyone's talking about it's on the news again. And I call up my contacts and I'm like, hey, I know we've been talking about this for a long time and you wouldn't give me official clearance. Was this you guys? And they're like, they just kind of smile. They're like, we cannot confirm nor deny we had anything to do with it. But it was like the best marketing thing you could possibly get for a movie. Absolutely. Just because they were trying to debunk it too, because the A-10s were on their way out. A lot of people were there was a lot of controversy about the A-10s. And So the fact that these were some kind of illumination flares that were causing this thing, it just kind of, it was good for the military. It was good for us. And
yeah,
it's great storytelling.
There is a lot.
cool.
I mean, you took the concept of viral marketing to a new level, and I didn't even know about that. There's a lot of stuff involved with the marketing you did with this. I know you have an app, and this was actually the first interactive film on Apple TV. And your campaign was so convincing that the Department of Justice had to get involved. How bad did that get?
That was scary. I mean, we got investigated by a lot of people. I mean, because we had started the viral campaign.
Some spooks.
Yeah, I mean, we had already heard a lot of things and we were kind of nervous about it. And because we had missing person sites, we did a lot of stuff. I mean, if you look at what Blair Witch did, we kind of took that to the next level. We shot about 3 or 4 hours of footage, hid it all over the internet. We created the Arizona Missing Persons Database. If you go to maricopamissing.com, all that stuff exists. And we kind of had this whole fictitious story that was the lead up to the film. The idea was the movie is like, 84, 86 minutes, but it's actually about 3.5 hours. And the idea is the scavenger hunt, you would find it all over the internet. And so as part of the Missing Persons campaign, I get this really concerned email from the legal department of our web provider for one of our sites, because we have like 20 sites that are all hidden and they're all independently registered, not in my name, because anyone says, Keith Arem PCB Productions, they're like, oh, okay, it's a video game or a movie.
Right.
So I have these all privately registered, and this is before fake news, by the way. This is before like fake news was a thing. Like I knew how easy it was to manipulate media, so I was trying to the movie is sort of making a point about that, right?
And everything you've done looks so real too. That's what I will say about it. It is so easy to mistake it for being real because it just looks so
and
official.
It blends with the real, right? Because not only are the stories real, because we fictionalize elements on top of real events, but even the news reports, those are the actual news reporters from '97 who reported on the original case. And then we added dialogue to their old footage that we licensed. So you can't tell what's new and what's not because your voice isn't going to change. And if we show them on camera and off camera, you just don't know. So we were able to take real footage and our footage and blend it. But that's why we got in trouble, because we got investigated by sheriff's departments, private investigators. And then ultimately we get this email from this private registered site that we did because they say, well, initially that if we don't give up our information to them through their legal department, they're going to hand it over to the United States government. And they're out of Europe somewhere. And so they're terrified. So I'm like, what is this? And I open up the attachment, and it's like this full dossier from the Department of Justice. And they're basically accusing us of they're threatening us with a 5-year imprisonment and a $500,000 fine.
Oh my God.
And they thought that we were basically bounty hunters tracking down these missing guys from our movie.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
And they were saying that we were using like a government website to convince the public to find these guys, but the guys didn't exist. We weren't taking any money, and it was just a private site that was independently registered and not there. But if you go online right now and you just look up, Arizona Missing Persons Database, you'll find us, and it still exists. So we had to get all of our lawyers on the phone, and they had this big conference with the DOJ, and it went on for like 2 days, and they finally got a good laugh out of it, and they made us put a disclaimer on the front page, and then they walked away from it. So
we called the number. We actually called the number, and we heard the.
I saw
disclaimer.
I saw that you guys called that.
Fun.
So, because if you guys leave messages, just so you know, if you go to the Maricopa Missing site, there's this 800 number, and it still exists. And so first of all, there are hidden extensions. So so check out extension 761. That's a very important number.
All right, write it down. 761. Write it down.
Got it.
But if you hit 0 and you leave a message for us, it will not only transcribe the message for us as an email, but the WAV file, it sends us the WAV file. So I have an idea that I want to do some kind of compilation of people's experiences and other things.
Great.
So
That's awesome.
That's a
so
good
cool.
idea. Like almost like a little time capsule.
By the way, you should probably tell everyone these are major spoilers. I'm spoiling everything right now. This is like, it's 5 years past, so if you missed the movie, then...
That's true. I think we'll probably write in the description, for everybody to go watch the movie before this. And
that's a good idea.
A lot of our viewers have probably seen it at this point too. So, but that's awesome. That is really cool.
Because talk about an interactive experience. Like that's more than most people get out of a movie. You get like a little viral marketing campaign that's maybe just something a website, but you went so deep and convincingly that you got the government worried.
I downloaded the app. I actually downloaded the app myself.
Did you really?
And I've been playing with it, and I watched. I've actually just before this got sucked right back into the documentary again and watched about half of it and was looking at my progress. And it's so cool that when you should download this app just to see how cool it is. It is the way it's designed is like it's very, very real looking. Like you scan your thumbprint to get into it, which is right away. I was hooked when I saw that. I was like, this is so cool. And you can watch the film. You can break down the film in different sections of the video, so you can watch the raw video that's used in the documentary. It's very cool. I've never really seen anything quite like it, but for that $10, you get the full film as well as the whole experience, which is that's awesome. Really cool.
And what I don't know if you know this or if you found this. So the more you watch, the more you earn. You earn these meta points, and the more meta points you earn, the more you unlock. So the idea is that you can just buy it and unlock everything, but you can also earn your way through stuff. And I felt really responsible because even though I'm fictionalizing a lot of stuff, it was based on eyewitness accounts and real things. And people who witness this really passionately believe in what they did see. And when you meet that many people who did see something, you're like, okay, guys, it's not just flares. I mean, people really, really did see something. And so I felt as a filmmaker and just as someone who's passionate about the subject that I couldn't just leave it at that. And so I ended up going to Lee Spiegel from the Huffington Post. I went to Alejandro Rojas, who was the first guy who ran Open Minds, which also is behind the International UFO Congress, but he was the first guy to debunk the whole viral campaign because now that's an interesting story in itself. But then also Stanton Friedman, who broke the original Roswell story back in the day. And then Nick Pope, who was from the Ministry of Defense in the UK, and he's all over Ancient Aliens and other shows now. But I sat down with those guys at the International UFO Congress, and I did an hour-long roundtable documentary just talking about the fact and fiction behind the movie, because I felt that like people... I think if you just watch the movie in itself and it's entertainment for what it is, and it was meant to be as a thriller, but there's so much in that movie that I wanted people to realize that it is actually based on something. So I felt that I kind of owed that to the audience to be able to do that. And that's part of the app. So you can unlock that as the app and do some other things. And that's the only place that's been released. Yeah. And that's called Full Disclosure, and that's in there as well.
Cool.
So cool. And your film, so it's released in 2015, but then a few months later, another film is released. Under the radar, like a triangle ship in the desert, the Phoenix Tapes 97, with no clear cast or director credited, and this is just a blatant and poorly done ripoff of your movie. This thing says it's directed by the Phoenix Tapes Foundation. Now, of course, you know Phoenix Tapes 97. What the hell happened?
Well, it's interesting because we still don't know the full story, but what happened was that I had pitched the movie initially back in 2009, 2010, and had some investors interested in some other producers that we're going to do it. We're going to make it as a bigger film. And there were some rights issues to a different movie they also wanted me to direct. I was moving from video games into film. They wanted me to do a couple other films. I pitched them Phoenix, which I was very passionate about doing. And as a result, they lost the license for theirs. I went off and got funding to do my film, and we went different ways. So while I was starting to get the film and get investment in my movie, someone told us that these guys had gone off and took our concept and was pitching it. And we actually lost a couple deals because they were pitching exactly our story. And we were like, wait, this is a found footage story about 4 guys missing in the desert, investigating the Phoenix Lights, blah, blah, blah. And this whole thing coming out, like, this is exactly our story. And then, so we knew one of the producers or someone that was vaguely tied to it. So we tried to reach out to them and kind of saying, guys, like, this is our story. Like, we pitched this thing. Obviously, it's already been registered with the guild. And they just kind of disappeared. They just kind of went away. And so we said, okay, well, film industry, whatever. And so we continued. We finished the movie. And then sure enough, a year later, this film pops up and it doesn't even really go out. Like they try to release it, then disappears. And then I think they go straight to Amazon or they go straight to streaming. There's no theatrical, there's no release, and there's no credits on it. So there was no real recourse for us. And so I never really pursued it. But then, as I'm sure you know, then there was another one that followed up right after that.
Yes, you're talking about Phoenix Forgotten, which comes almost 2 full years after. I want to say before this, so you had never heard the name Turner Clay, because we have broken down Phoenix Tapes 97 as just being a very, very terrible fake, a try-hard. He really wants to trick people with his movies, what I've always found. If anything he does, he wants to keep that air a little too much. Like, no, this is really real, and I'm not going to credit anybody. So you hadn't heard of him at all, right?
No, I hadn't. And I get it because I know what I was doing with our marketing campaign, right? I was releasing materials and we had 20 million people all following our viral campaign. So you got to respect the authenticity of someone trying to do that. But I think when it's coming in on the creativity of somebody else, now it's a big world. It's a public event that happened. It's possible that two creators came up with the same idea about the same date, about the same thing, about the same time. I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, you get the idea that you throw 1,000 monkeys into a room with 1,000 typewriters and type every novel. It's like, but come on, it's like, really?
Yeah, it's way too close. It's just too much of a coincidence. It's like, yeah. And,
they are
and
so many.
Yes.
I did the task. I watched yours and Turner Clay's movies on 2 screens going at the same time, so I could take notes on just how much blatant, and you had to be so mad when you first saw this because it's a terribly done film. You guys both have 4 young guys filming themselves in the desert, but see, your film has a great concept of the helmet cam. It makes a point to there being a camera there the whole time, that it's not impeding this guy from doing anything. And their reason for having a camera on the whole time, it's just, I don't know why. It made no sense why they were filming anything they did.
Right, that's the problem with found footage movies, right? Like if you've got a 15-foot alien chasing you, you drop your freaking camera and you just run, right? And it's like, I'm going to turn around and film this thing. And so, I think that that inherently found footage movies are flawed in that if you don't have an explanation of why we're seeing this. And even though I like found footage, it gets very tiring because of that. And honestly, we have those same problems. I mean, our shaky camera problems and other things are a whole nother discussion and something that I wish I could have avoided as a first-time filmmaker. And all of a sudden you get to the editing room, you're like, what? But I think that that what really happens when you're dealing with found footage is that you're telling a narrative from that. I mean, the whole idea, it is found footage and you're watching this with no real explanation. That's what Blair Witch was, and Paranormal and all these other kind of films. So what I wanted to do was do something that was more mixed media, right? The idea that a documentarian can take a helmet camera that's recovered, can take news footage, can take interviews, can take surveillance footage, put all this together, and with this mixed media can now tell a found footage story. But now I'm juxtaposing this interview with this news report with the recovered found footage. And to some extent, it's 2 movies, right? Like some part of it, it's a really cool documentary, and I'm getting a lot of documentary work because of the movie. Mm-hmm. And then there's this found footage part of just the guy's journey. And I think to some part, that's probably why the film isn't a breakout success, because it doesn't know exactly its audience, right? Because a younger audience is going to love the found footage and the thriller side of it, and an older audience is going to be more into a documentary. And the fact that we go back and forth pisses some people off. They're like, just stay with one story. I can't move like that. And what are you, ADD? And I'm like, yeah, yes, I am.
Well, those people need to actually go watch the other one and realize how boring it is to just watch guys do nothing, because that's all the other one is. Your people actually have motivations. They seem capable. I want to say, yeah, of course, you've got 4 guys in each one. You guys have very capable, engaging characters, and the other guys in Phoenix 97, annoying, useless. They can't do anything.
Very emotionally unstable people on that
you don't want to. 4 people you would never want to spend any time with. Play soundboard too, because even when their car breaks, they say dumb things like this.
Is that car stuff?
Is that car stuff?
Is that car stuff?
Yeah, that's
some good script writing.
We did part of the viral campaign, and what you'll see, it's in the app, and also you can find it online. There's all these little mini documentaries on each of the guys, and the funny thing is that what when I first started working on the film in 2009, 2010, I went out to the desert. This is a kind of a fun story. I took Troy and Travis and Liam and Yuri with me, and we took my Suburban out there. We went to the Estrella Mountain Pass where these lights disappeared. I already had the basis of the story, and in character, we took some cameras. We had a couple cinematographers give us some cameras to test out for kind of what we wanted to use for the final film. And we literally took a road trip from here in Los Angeles all the way out there on the 10 freeway. We went up to the desert, and then we shot along the way, all in character, and that night. And even though we had no visual effects, we had nothing that's there. And holy shit, it was some of the best footage because they were so real. And those characters are those guys. That is Yuri. That is Travis. That is Troy. I mean, we all know each other so well that is us just screwing around. And it was so powerful that the diner scene when Troy's character walks out, they're talking about why don't you just go to Los Angeles and this whole thing, and he has the smoke outside. And a few other moments. That is from that original 20-minute movie that we just shot on our handheld cameras.
Oh, awesome.
And it was so, you'll notice their haircuts changed and they look a little different because they were shot like a few years apart. But it was so good that I was like, these are my guys, because I know these guys and I wrote the characters around who they are. And most people, they know their characters. They know Troy from Last of Us. They know Yuri from these other things, and everyone knows them in their video games. But that's the characters they play. But as guys, this is us just screwing around. And, we're bringing paintball guns with us and shooting things, fluorescent paintball guns in the middle of the night and doing things. And we just had so much fun making the movie that the characters you see in the film, and that's why there's so much extra footage that we wanted to weave in with these cameras, because it's just a cool chance to be able to hang out with these guys that are now, fortunately earning their celebrity status.
Now, do they share a passion of UFOs like you do? Do they share a similar passion of the paranormal?
Travis does in particular. That was really how the film really got started, because I was telling Travis all these stories, and Travis dated this girl back in high school or college, and her dad was like an admiral, like really high up. And he retired, and he was running an airport or something like that. Anyway, so he's dating the daughter of this admiral, and he's like this buttoned up, military guy. And apparently he was in charge of one of these major UFO programs, or at least a program that would deal with that. And Travis was all into this as a kid. And so, but the dad was very cold with him. And so Travis, I guess, one night kind of got him aside and like, hey, you gotta level with me. You gotta tell me, like, are they real? And he leaned into him and he said, once you know, you can't unknow. Oh, and he was like, because like that doesn't confirm or deny anything, right? It doesn't acknowledge it. But to hear him, he's like, I'll tell you, but then you're never going to be able to leave that, because if it's real, then you know it is. And so Travis is way, way into this. And so we got into this conversation about that and what I was learning about the Phoenix Lights and everything else that I already knew, but then all this other information, and I already had the basis of the story. And so then we ended up taking that road trip, and then it just kind of went from there. So the guys were really into it. They really, really are. And that made it really special too, because it allowed us to just kind of play and iterate and come up with other ideas. And we were weaving in the Heaven's Gate cult. And then Michael Adamthwaite, who I just worked with, we were working on the new Rainbow Six game. And cool. I had spent like 2 or 3 months casting on that project all over Canada, because it was an Ubisoft game and they had to have Canadian actors on that project. And so we were casting in Toronto and Montreal and in Vancouver. And in walks this dude with this trench coat and this beard and unbelievably scary. And I'm like, that's our guy. And so I cast him on this Rainbow Six project. And anyway, the project
that would be Walter Gayson from the film, right?
And so I told him, we ended up having this dinner, and I was like, for hours we're just talking, and I'm like, I got a project for you, dude. I'm not even going to cast anybody else. You have this role. And he became Walt Gayson, and the funny thing is that, and I'll send you the tape if I find it. Actually, some of it's on the app, and you can find it there. He goes back home. He gets one of the guys from Stargate, one of the VFX guys, and one of the makeup guys from Stargate, and one other show that was shooting up in Vancouver. Does a full shaved head prosthetic, the scar across his eye. He does his backdrop, and he does the whole gasoline stunt that's from the end of the film. He does it as an audition for me without telling me. He just does it. I just give him he had some dialogue from the movie, and he does it as an audition, and it's so terrifying and creepy. He even put in like sound effects and other things, and I'm showing this to my producers and other people, and everyone's like, oh my god, this is a committed actor. And he was phenomenal. So there's a thing you can find online. It's called Interview with the Alien Killer, and it's like excerpts from that. And I was studying some serial killers to get some ideas of how he would kind of talk in captivity. And he is such a powerful actor. There was one of the police officers. We had hired a lot of real police officers. So you'll see a scene when he's getting arrested in the film and they're incarcerating him, and they're pulling a lot of those are real police officers. And one of the police officers said, I've been around a lot of criminals my life and a lot of things. He is the most convincing guy I've ever seen. He just like absolutely. So hats off to Adam Thwaite, because that dude he can just act circles around people, and his career is doing really well too. He's been in Planet of the Apes and a whole bunch of other big movies, and
he looked very familiar. There's a very familiar look about him. I've seen him in things, and
he's great.
It's a very powerful performance.
Yeah, I want to use that scene as a my like video Yule log this year. Kids will love it. So I noticed another thing that was blatantly stolen, and I'm trying to make the case. You can't give this guy the benefit of the doubt. They stole you guys saying WWF to kind of date the footage to the 90s. There's a scene where they're broing around. He's like, I'm a WWF you. And in their movie, they do the same thing, but they're like, so are we going to go to that WWF event coming up? It's like, all right, we get it. Yours was so subtle, wink. But they stole that. They were like, well, how'd they date it to the 90s? We could never figure it out. Like, say WWF. And it's like, just little things like that. You don't ever wonder. Believe me, I took both of these apart. And yes, he stole so much from you.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think they knew, and our film was out. And so what had happened was that when our film was going, we did this big showcase of the movie at the American Film Market here in Los Angeles. And there's a scene. It's cut out from most of the film, but it is in the app and some other parts. We have this dead horse that we had built, and it's a full-size dead horse. It's amazing, and we brought it to the film premiere, and we had to bring it down Ocean Boulevard, and it stopped traffic because there's this big eviscerated horse that's been blown apart and torn apart by aliens, and we had that on display with all this like alien stuff, and we did this huge showing, and we got all these film offers for the movie, and then we did another screening, and we had Paramount and Relativity and Sony going to pick up the movie. So we had a really good deal for that. And we had pitched the film and done some other things, and everything was going super, super well. And Relativity had seen the marketing campaign, because we were getting 20 million people following what we were doing through all the fake stuff online. And they had done Catfish, the movie, and they were doing the TV show for Catfish. Right. So they loved it, and we were going to do this whole series based on Phoenix, and which we're still actually looking at doing right now. And we were about to sign that. And then my next big film, which was based on my next graphic novel, this movie called Frost Road, we were in development on that movie. And it was 10 times, 15 times the budget of Phoenix. And we were moving forward on that project. And right in the middle of this, Relativity filed for bankruptcy. And we'd already passed at that point from Sony and Paramount. So all of our film was going out in Europe and some other things, and Sony and Paramount were still going to pick up the movie, but it was going to put it out another year later, which would have come out after these other films that were imitating us. And so we went ahead and released the film with all the European distributors, and the film took off. It was doing super, super well, but got pirated instantly.
Oh man!
And so we were warned about this, but we weren't seeing any money from it. And we had hired these anti-piracy companies to help us protect the movie, which kind of backfired, because the film originally came out with a 8.8 rating, like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Actually, it was at 8.8. And the day, you actually look up the reviews, the day that we enacted all of the anti-piracy, when they actually shut down all the BitTorrent sites and everything else that was there, they basically spam botted us down, and we went down to a 2.2 on the same day.
Oh my God, on the same day.
And so it literally, we've been writing at 8.8, and because we were watching it, like, oh, it's great reviews and everyone's reviewing it really well, and it's doing great. And then suddenly we're at a 2.2, and people look at social media, number of stars and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so and here it is 6 months before it's going to come out in the United States. Mm-hmm. And so we were recutting the movie anyway. There was a different theatrical cut, and we had this whole viral campaign that was going out, and we had all these millions of people that were following this sort of story that we were doing. And so we contacted IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, and they just basically gave us the middle finger, and they're like, yeah, sorry. And so now I think we're at like a 5.5 or something like that on IMDb, which is fine. It's like, but it's sad because you can see, I mean, some people genuinely hate the movie, and don't get me wrong. I mean, some people hate the movie because they just like, how dare you say that aliens would hurt people and attack people, and how dare you do this kind of stuff? And I was like, I can't really answer that one, but other people, and so we're really polarized. You'll see either 5 stars or 1 stars.
Yeah, you're not going to see. Yeah, it's not like people go after the movie Aliens about that. It's like it's a film, and I think it's already always kind of feels like this is a film going in,
right. And we're also $1 million film, right? I mean, our budget was literally 1.3 million, and that. In some circles, that sounds like a lot of money, but compared to what you can do in Hollywood, it really was not. And I showed the movie to Chris Carter, from X-Files, and he came over here and watched the film. And he's watching this, and he looks at me and goes, how much did you do this for? Right. And I was like, 1.1. He goes like, the pilot for the next X-Files is 11 million. So we got a lot into that movie for that. And
I was about to say the effects are just state of the art. They look great. I mean, like Turner Clay guy, he has a leaf blower as his main effect in the movie, and even with a low budget, yours looks. Your aliens and the effects of especially, we were all freaking out watching when we saw the triangle ship make the maneuvers. I mean, that was so well done. It looks really great.
Yeah, can you talk about the aliens? And I remember you mentioning that the original plan, you weren't going to even show the aliens, and then
That's exactly
things were going so well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I knew on $1 million budget. I work in video games. I work around a lot of great CG animators and other people, and so every time you look at a film and you look at I Am Legend or something like that, and you're like, oh, the CG stands out so bad that you're like, you just don't want to go there, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I'm writing this thing, I was a big fan of Alien growing up, and what scared me about Alien is that you didn't see the alien for most of the movie, right? And when you did, it was terrifying, and it was an amazingly well done creature, but that you really didn't see it. And so taking inspiration from that, right? And they had the xenomorph. We have the phenomorph, right? That's kind of our joke.
Very close.
What this thing is. But that design and everything else was definitely inspired by Giger and other things. But I just wrote the script to say, it's a shadow, you never really see this, all this stuff happens kind of in the dark. And the only scene you were really supposed to see was at the very, very end of the movie where Glenn Lauder, who's that's Yuri's character, gets, killed or abducted or what happens. And this foot comes right into the camera. And you were supposed to see that. And so what's interesting is that Stan Winston's studio, Legacy Effects, those guys loved the film, and they were going to actually build the prosthetic of the alien foot for us. And my friends there were going to do that. And that was a big ask, big favor, because those guys do, Iron Man and Avatar and Avengers and that kind of stuff. So for them to build the alien foot was like this great thing. And I ended up hooking up with this guy named George Lucas, not the George Lucas, another George Lucas.
Oh, man.
I actually offered him money to change the spelling of his name, so that would make our film better.
And he works in film also?
Yeah, but it's Loucas.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
okay. That's still got to be pretty tough. It's
yeah,
still gotta be
difficult. I said, George, I'll give you $10,000. Just take the O out of your last name, and our movie will I'll give you that money.
Look, we got Ridley Scott's name on the other,
right.
Phoenix Forgotten. We need a name to attach to, man.
That's right. So, but George showed me some stuff that he was working on, and he was doing some really great films. And he said, I'm reading the script. He goes, I think we can do this with CG. And I was like, dude, like, come on, like, we don't have any money for this. And like, if you're ILM and we can do stuff for Star Wars, even Star Wars has some issues, right? So like, how are we going to do any kind of good CG on $1 million film? So he said, well, let me just do that foot shot. Let's do that foot shot as a test. And sure enough, they do that. And that foot comes in full center frame and hits the camera. And everyone's looking at this thing going, you can see it glistening and it's right there. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. And so we built the design. A friend of mine, Brandon Humphreys, that I've done some graphic novels with, helped design some stuff. And then we had the guy who did all the dragons from Game of Thrones working for Baked Effects for George's company. And so I sat down with him, this guy Dan, and we designed the Phenomorph. And the idea is that these creatures that you see in the film, for the most part, these are the attack dogs that are like the defensive mechanism. They're not the pilots that you see later. And so I designed these things so you still would be in the shadows, and we would do this. But we started modeling it, and we started putting in the shots. And the whole film, up until release, I was like, how much are we going to show of these things? And I still kind of feel actually I showed too much of them. Like I think they did an amazing job and I love the effects, but I think there is something creepy about the fact that you see just enough and then you can't see anymore. And so I think that in the next film, you'll get to see front and center. I mean, we have a much bigger budget and we'll be able to do it. But in this one, it was kind of a learning process. So.
And it's kind of alluded to that the aliens that we see in this film are kind of like more of the dogs, and that, I don't know, that was the impression that I got. And I saw there was a little picture in the building, in the cabin, of a gray alien that looked familiar, that you can only really see it for a few frames. It's real quick.
Yeah, so that picture that's a real painting. We recreated that. We painted that, but that painting is actually from the Heaven's Gate cult. And if you actually look at the Heaven's Gate suicide that took place in Rancho Santa Fe that we wove into our whole story, that exact painting is right there where all the dead bodies were, in that cult thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
awesome.
the idea is that these aliens that came down, there are these pilots that are piloting the ships, but then when the ship gets shot down, spoiler, when the ship gets shot down, these things come pouring out. And so the scene when Travis is going up the hill, they first see it on the mountainside. You should have seen that original shot, because we built when we were building it, we actually built a 15-foot wing. And I was like, a 15-foot wing, that should be pretty big. And we're out in the Estrella Desert. We're hauling lights up there with our crew. And we put on these lights, and we had this thing, and it was like this little rinky-dink little thing. And it looked like terrible. Like, our promotional shots, it's okay if you're closer, but like this being the alien craft that gets shot down in the movie is like this, and it just looked terrible. So again, George and his team are like, I think we can work with that. And they end up making this huge, giant wing that's smoke coming out of it, and everything is great, and all the lighting. And that's where the aliens start pouring out of that. But in that shot, as the aliens come out in that one shot, what you don't see, and the extended part of that shot that we were designing, was the pilot actually stands on the wing and is directing the dogs. And that's the big elongated neat creature that's got the cool thing. And those are the intelligent beings of these. But the attack dogs themselves are just like vicious, like organic defense mechanisms that are designed to hunt down anything that gets in their way. They're like the troops, the Marines that are there. And we got a lot of criticism. Like, people were like, there's no way these attack dog things are going to pilot
How
those
are they
ships.
flying a ship? I said the same thing, and we had the same debate as we were watching it, and then we're like, oh, wait, yeah, of course there are pilot aliens. Okay, we kind of figured it out.
There's always pilots.
As a filmmaker, you don't realize that when you cut something out, you're like, oh, sure. Oh, the audience doesn't know that. So, yeah, so that's what you learn as a filmmaker, is you make these disastrous mistakes that you're like, the logic doesn't make sense.
Well, I think we intuitively felt that just from watching it. Like, we kind of got the vibes that there was probably some gray aliens involved in this somehow. Are you a fan of the gray alien? Is that one of your particular aliens that you like to explore in your stuff? Do you like gray aliens?
Yeah, the way that I have them envisioned in the next film and other things is definitely, it's inspired by that. I mean, these big, elongated, like, grays that are there. It's I can't talk too much about the film. If you have the app, you'll notice there's this big world thing that happens at the end, at the beginning when you do your fingerprint.
Yes.
You'll see different cities. You'll see Roswell and other things that's there. One of those are all the next films that are coming.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
And what you may not know, and I'll try to get you a code if I can, but on the main page, there are arrows. And if you go on that, you can rotate to those different sites.
Okay.
And there are access codes. And for one of them, you can unlock it and you will see a preview of the next film, at least the pitch for the next film.
Okay.
So,
I definitely want to check that out.
There's a lot of hidden stuff. I mean, this is very meta. It goes very deep because the thing is these projects take forever, especially in Hollywood and especially now in the middle of a pandemic, and things just take forever to get going. So, so a lot of times you have a great idea, but it's just not the right time to execute it. So a lot of times you'll see a lot of creators like myself where, we've got an idea, we tuck it away, we do something with it, and you see it come out in a lot of different projects. So the next film is already written, it's already there. We've got a lot of celebrities attached to it, but it may be a number of years before it actually gets out in some way, shape, or form.
And look, I'll get these guys. We'll record a little secret podcast that no one hears. And we'll just send you the file. Whatever happens to it happens, and if it gets lost in there, that's fine with us. There was a part that you mentioned, about the events of that Hale-Bopp comet, the narrative with the character Walt Gayson, the whole Heaven's Gate cult thing. Did you ever contact the Heaven's Gate cult? Because I know it is possible to correspond with them.
Yeah. So what was interesting is they actually were in Phoenix prior to going to Rancho Santa Fe. And that I thought was really fascinating because the idea, and they actually do still have a building in Phoenix, and there are cult members that are there.
Really?
And a number of the cult members, they had 39 of them that took their lives, back in March of 97. But there were some that left the cult early, and some of them came back and actually took their lives again, which is what Walt Gayson was kind of based on. And so we have a number of sites. Like I was mentioning, we have about 20 sites. And the whole setup for this was that Walt Gayson was one of the Heaven's Gate members that stayed behind because he always knew they were going to come back. And so he was waiting for them. He gets arrested when these guys get abducted. He gets held for questioning without any bail or parole. He gets taken to a supermax prison without any trial. And then 17 years later, he comes back. He comes back to Rancho Santa Fe, takes his life, and leaves behind all these tapes the way that the Heaven's Gate guys did. And that's how we know what the film is about. And so that sums up where the viral campaign goes into, and that's what the end of the movie is. And that's where everything else is on these tapes. But the Heaven's Gate guys did all that stuff. I mean, they believe that the Earth was like this, sort of this, not just a forest, but kind of like a place to grow your soul. And essentially you would leave your human vehicle and then you would go to the next level of humanity.
Yeah. Of ascension. I don't know if you're an Art Bell listener. I saw that a lot of the theory started from an amateur astronomer. He discovered something following Hale-Bopp, and that led into being called Planet X and Nibiru, and people like Courtney Brown expanded about that. I need to go find that old Art Bell, but I didn't realize that a lot of that had roots in radio coming out as far as where Heaven's Gate went.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is what you saw in the movie. So they see this triangular craft that was trailing behind the Hale-Bopp comet, and they saw that, and they all went into red alert. And that's what triggered them into going to Doomsday, and so that was a really interesting thing because it all happened that same week. That was the idea of the film, was that you have Heaven's Gate, you've got all these cattle mutilations, all these disappearances, and then you ultimately have the Phoenix Lights all the same week that are happening. And but that Hale-Bopp was the thing that triggered everything that was there.
Yeah, that was really interesting way to fold that in. I mean, of course, I was live at the time, but I guess I didn't realize how big Hale-Bopp was still, that it was known as 97 was basically the year of the comet. I mean, you could see this for
with the naked eye.
Yeah, it was for a naked eye for months, and it all came to a culmination, was finally not seen again right around the same time. In
well, that's
March.
the thing, and that's why so many people were out in March, because in Phoenix, because you do have a great view of the sky, all these people were going out to see the Hale-Bopp comet, and suddenly there's this fleet of lights that's come from the Nevada border all the way down through Prescott, across the northern part of the state, crosses across the city, and people are seeing this whole formation of lights that's going over the city. And while that, Hale-Bopp was still in the sky, that's how the Phoenix Lights got so much attention.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you also, So I'm sure you've followed the great work of your nemesis, your ripoff man, Turner Clay. Have you ever seen these awful Blackwell Ghost movies?
I have not. I have not seen this. I don't know if I'm going to now.
The first one's free on Amazon if you have Prime, but it's pretty awful. And he gives himself away because he kills himself in his ripoff of your film. He's one of the ones who dies. But he shows up in this movie as a living person with no name, but he's wearing one of the hats that he wore in Phoenix Tapes, as if there's, I don't know, could it be a sequel? He's doing the same thing though. It's that dodgy production company with no names attached, real fly by night Amazon ripoff kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know if that's for legal reasons or if that's just trying to be authentic or not, but
it feels like he's trying to leave Easter eggs or something. He wants people to find these little details.
It's just his style. That's just his thing.
He's just not good at things. Yeah, he's not. There's no thought of viral campaign.
He's not even really asking for credit for it in the end. So I guess it is what it is with him. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the motive? just to mess with other people's fame and just say like, I did it first. I don't know what his motive is.
Well, and it's kind of funny for me because, just being a first-time filmmaker, it's even though I've done a lot in video games and music and other kind of things, moving into film, you're coming up with ideas, you're trying to do something, you're trying to be original. And then when you find out that people are either imitating or stealing or doing stuff, it's sort of like, it's a little disheartening because it feels like it waters down the idea. And again, hats off. If something was authentic and two people came up with the same idea at the same time, then I totally respect that. But like when you find out, and some people say, hey, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But when you got people pirating your movie and then people ripping you off and doing stuff, it's like, it's not about the money. Like, it's not about the money. If you want to just work hard and make money, that's fine. But when you're creatively doing something and people are leeching off of that, that's kind of what really kind of ultimately is the saddest part about our industry, is that like people are trying to profit from other people's creativity instead of just coming up with their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, I haven't seen enough of his work to be able to say, one way or the other, but that when people do that, it's just, and I've had many, many projects stolen and ripped off and still happens, and some really big ones actually. And so, you never think, I'm just doing this $1 million movie, it's just to learn how to do this. And suddenly you see like two films that are literally stealing shots and footage. And, our stuff made its way into Phoenix Forgotten. That whole Arizona Missing Persons database and our flag and our stuff, that's all in their movie. They thought our stuff was real and they incorporated it into the film. So, you see it.
Okay, that has to be kind of flattering.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
But this is insane from both levels, where I think there's one guy consciously doing it and another one who fell for it so far to be like, man, we should make a movie about this. Like, that's what this is.
Yeah, you're right. That is a different
angle. Down. So I guess it's safe to say you can go on the record and say this is not a shared universe with Phoenix Tapes 97. There wasn't 8 guys. 4 capable. I put a theory out that maybe your guys might have killed their guys because you were very capable, and there might be a subplot there. But this is not a shared universe, right?
No, it would have been great. What would have been actually a great idea and would have been much more honorable is if they did, rip off our idea, was to say, hey, we heard this is a real story. So to add to the fact, they're creating another documentary about our guys, right? And do something so then it adds to the credibility of our world because our guys were fictitious too. But,
it could have taken 2 lines of dialogue because those guys die the same way that the guys in your film do. To the point even of the dragging the person into the bushes away from the camera. They decide to do that for all their kills. They're like, well, we can't do all the interesting things like pull a guy through a window or beam him up with a UFO. We'll just drag them all like that one scene.
Right. And, and it's so weird because, you think about, like I was saying before, like obviously a lot of people witnessed the Phoenix Lights, found footage has been around. There's so many things that people can say, well, I had that idea and I had this idea and I had that idea. And it's like, it's great. But when you have all those ideas all put together, the amount of similarities at the same time, in the same proximity, then it starts to get kind of unique. And, I'm not a very litigious person. I'm not someone that's going to go out and start suing everybody and whatever. And I've spoken to attorneys and, you can file suits and do other things, but it's like, it's Hollywood and it's just like, just move on, and just like, build your own, as long as people know. The sad part is that like when it waters down an idea and like, oh yeah, that happened in 3 other movies and someone else did this.
Which one?
Like, exactly. Then that creative ideas is gone because so many people have done it. You think about bullet time from The Matrix and what a cool effect that was. But how many times have you seen bullet time since then? Of course, The Matrix gets honor for creating it and doing it first. But now that effect, you see it, and you're like, oh, yawn. It's like it's cool, but it's like it's been done. And so I think as a creator, it puts even more pressure on you to be like, wow, you got to get above the noise to begin with, and you got to create something that's original and something that's going to connect with
audiences. And that's not going to get cheapened by everybody else after that. Yeah.
Well, I've come up with the theory that 4 guys really did go missing, and that all these films are being made just to flood the internet with information so that no one knows what happened to those original 4 guys. And I think that you're part of this, sir.
Bury the lead, yeah.
Well, that was actually part of one of the investigations that went down with us, not just because of the Department of Justice, but we had a private investigator that was hired on behalf of one of the politicians in Arizona, and they investigated us and they did that. And when we first interviewed Frances Barwood, the vice mayor, the vice mayor in the film, she went on and said, she started talking about these 4 guys. Because mind you, we were still making the film, so the film wasn't out, but she had found all of our viral campaign. So she, on camera, starts telling us about the disappearance of these guys because this private investigator had been investigating.
Oh.
And we were like, oh, wow, we weren't supposed to talk about that. I mean, it was like, we couldn't use any of that in the movie because like, we didn't want to like trick her for doing it. Obviously we had to tell her afterwards. But it was, and she's super sweet and amazing, but she went through a lot because she was trying to whistle blow about what was going on with the Phoenix Lights there at the time. So it's it gets very meta. You don't know what's real and what's not after a while. And
it's the equivalency of human flares you put out there, to where they're like, oh, got another thing. There's no other guys. They weren't 4 capable guys. I saw this other thing. There are these 4 losers.
Well, and of course, in today's world, your wheels must be turning with some of the news that's going on, because we're just getting UFO news every single day, and this is just all more great content to be interweaved with stories, which I can't wait. I can't wait.
And everyone's in quarantine worried about COVID, and they're like, aliens? Yeah, whatever. It's like,
that's right.
The Pentagon is releasing this footage, right? And acknowledging this for the first time. I had a fascinating call, and I can't get into it too much because it is going to become something. But I had a guy who was involved. His family was involved in an actual murder case 30 years ago, and the guy who did it said that she was abducted by aliens, and it was this unbelievably fascinating case. And I'm really seriously considering doing a show based on it. And all this stuff is coming out, and people had seen my stuff, and I was making a fake documentary, but I was taking a lot of the tropes and other things that documentary filmmakers do. Mm-hmm. And it was just teaching me how to be a filmmaker, right? How to tell stories in linear ways as opposed to interactive ways. But it's weird when like the truth is stranger than fiction for real. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and now that all this stuff is coming out, it's like, wow, like a lot of this stuff is kind of real. And people are always, just aliens, whatever. I interviewed about 30 abductees at the International UFO Congress in January, and I heard some of these stories, and I met with Travis Walton and some of these other guys. And it is just fascinating to hear, because some of the stories, you can put some people into like, okay, people just want media fame or they want publicity or whatever. And you have some people who are maybe on a spectrum or maybe just not quite with the same kind of things. But then you have other people who are like really articulate, very grounded people who have seen and experienced something, and they're just trying to get answers. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, when you meet people like that, it is the most compelling thing ever, because they're not trying to get publicity. They're not trying to get on camera. They're not trying to be a movie star. They're not trying to get any money. They just want to know what happened. Yeah. And when you meet those guys and hear those stories, and then you cross-reference it with 2 or 3 other people who have the exact same experience, but they don't know each other and they haven't shared those stories ever, then it starts to be, you start to triangulate that and you're like, oh my God, like that's weird. How could they have the same experience not being connected and never having shared that? And micro details. It's not like, oh yeah, sure, I saw lights in the sky at this date or whatever. This was like really detailed stuff. And that's kind of been the biggest benefit, I think, as a filmmaker, is you have access on a different level. Most people don't get to meet people like that and on a day-to-day basis. And so that was really fascinating. So, for me, it's great storytelling, but it's also, I feel this obligation to kind of give back and maybe, do more on the documentary side and kind of show the reality of what's behind all this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was lucky enough to talk to Calvin Parker. He's kind of in that category, and very believable guy, older guy, just kind of wants to get it off his chest, and just very, very believable, and really makes you wonder. What are your thoughts about Tom DeLonge and the To the Stars Academy? Have they ever reached out to you in any way?
Yeah, when I was making the film, it was funny because our film got caught up in the Podesta tapes. So when Podesta's stuff got released, if you actually go through all those things that got hacked online, you'll see our marketing company, because we were reaching out to him. And Tom and I had changed emails at the beginning of the process. I think that Tom, had in his mind that he wanted to do his documentaries and other things that he was doing, and he was trying to reach out to Spielberg and a number of other people. And I think as a result, he didn't think mine was very credible, because obviously I was doing a found fiction, thriller film. Right. And so I don't think that he really wanted to get involved in my project, but I ended up meeting Alonzo and all the other guys that were there, and hung out with a lot of those guys since then, and amazing guys, like everyone involved in the show, really powerful and very knowledgeable guys. And so I don't know too much about their operation so much. Obviously saw the shows and other things that they were involved with, and very, very compelling. And I just, for me, just always want to know what people's intentions are, when you're doing that, right? If you're a filmmaker and you're saying, hey, I'm trying to make a movie, that's great. If you're making a documentary, that's great. And if you're trying to get justice for something or disclosure, that's cool too. And I just don't know really, to be honest, like what Tom's group, their goals are. They have access.
They have a lot of goals. They have a lot of goals, it seems. And entertainment was one of them. That seems to be the only one. I mean, other than, that Pentagon footage being confirmed is, of course, a big deal. But I do think he wants to do a lot through media projects. I know we talked to that guy, Cristo, the curse of the man who sees UFOs. And he claims that Tom DeLonge came out and talked to him, too. So I think he's just a truth seeker with a lot of money.
Yeah.
And more power to him. I mean, if you can do that, I think the only problem with having money, and this is not a criticism of Tom, this is just in general, is that if you have money, people are going to be attracted to that because they're going to say things because of that. And I think that you have to be careful. And again, I'm not saying this about their operation, but just in general, you have to be careful that when money is involved, that yes, you can get good entertainment, but you might not always get what you're after, because people will tell you what you want to hear. And what is risky is when you hear a lot of amazing things, right? Because it's very compelling and it can be very convincing, but it's also very convenient. And I think that what I've seen in a lot of Hollywood is and again, it dilutes sort of the uniqueness of it, is that if one entity or one group or one person gets too much access, then it seems too convenient. Because why does no one else have a smoking gun and suddenly this guy's got 5? And that doesn't make sense. And so I think that with Tom's group, I think they have the potential of doing some really amazing things. And definitely from talking to the guys, they're super knowledgeable, and they've promised, to share stuff with me privately and kind of see some of the stuff that they're working on. But I've had the opportunity to meet so many amazing UFOologists and people who are just real researchers. And part of this documentary I did, I met with Stanton Friedman, and he told me a lot of stuff that he had worked on, and Lee Spiegel, and definitely Nick Pope has great stories. So when you start talking to these guys, it's amazing, because again, it's like everyone just wants to know what's going on. It's not like it's going to unravel the fabric of our humanity if we find out that aliens are real. It's just, we just want to know. You know, but people are like, oh, they're going to start sleeping with cats and dogs, and
religion will be over.
They could be doing that already.
Right.
Yeah, people do that already anyway. Earth is weird.
It is.
We're weird enough without the aliens. Like, if we might be better off with the aliens and interacting with them.
Maybe they're staying away for a reason, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
But I think there's also a difference. That's like, if you think about it, if you think about like how infinitely vast the universe is, and how many billions and billions and billions and billions of galaxies there are, and planets that could potentially house life and have similar circumstances to our little rock that's floating around this little solar system. How is it that we're the only beings in the entire universe that are sentient enough to, it's like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Totally.
But on the flip side of that, if there are other civilizations throughout the universe, we don't have the ability to get to them, so they may not have the ability to get to us. So the fact that we may have seen craft, we may have seen ships, we may have these encounters, certainly possible, absolutely within the realm of possibility. The fact that they're here and co-mixing with us, or, trying to steal, whatever that is, or whatever that hidden agenda is, I have a harder time, with the cattle prod up the butt kind of stories, because I kind of feel like you might have a little bit more evidence in all the cameras and all the news and all the military and all the things, because our military is designed to protect our borders, right? And that includes up. And so if you have something that's coming over our border and down into our airspace, that's a threat to the citizens of the country as much as the military. And I heard, rumors, and others thought that even Roswell could have been a crashed Russian jet. And the whole idea that was covered up was that, just like we had, Powers who crashed in the U-2 in the Soviet Union in the 60s, they had one over here and it crashed over New Mexico. And then, of course, they take it from the ranch and they take it to Roswell. But then that gets turned into aliens because it was some unknown craft with some kind of metal that they hadn't seen. So, we have to protect our borders, not in a Trump kind of way, but in a way that that we don't have Russian or Chinese jets taking out, strategic target. So we have air defense. So if you have a fleet of objects that can go from 30,000 feet to 200 feet in 8 seconds or whatever this is, without having any kind of heat signature, without having any fins, without, things can go 130 knots against the wind. I mean, that's a military threat. And to me, if I was the U.S. military and that's happening, I would be pretty concerned that they've got something that can outclass and outmaneuver an F-22 and can, definitely take on anything. You weaponize something like that. And so it's less about just worried about aliens coming and, putting in chips into our brains. It's more like, guys, we're looking this way, but is anyone looking up? And so
good point.
I think that's just my whole thinking about it. And I don't think aliens are evil or good or neutral. I don't have a feeling one way or the other. I just feel that we're not alone. I just don't think that there's also some grand conspiracy right now that we haven't either seen, or if it is, I think that it's a much different agenda than what has been put out in movies.
Yeah, if they're smart enough to get here in a ship, they were smart enough to bring dogs with them. So if anyone has any, why wouldn't they, these weak little stick twigs with giant heads, bring this massive creatures with them? So anyone who's
right.
I did enjoy that about the movie. That
you're gonna have some big attacks. There was, what was that, Attack the Block? Did you ever see that one?
I've heard very good things about it. Actually, it's on my list of films to watch. Isn't that awesome. A British film?
It's a British film. It is surprisingly similar to ours. It's not a found footage at all, but ship crashes and they have attack dogs, and theirs is, I think their movie is better than ours for sure, has a bigger budget, and they did a really good job. And those aliens are scary. Scary. They don't look like ours. It's totally different, but it's British film, and if you get a chance to watch it, it's really good.
I know it's John Boyega from Star Wars, so I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. It's a different approach to it, but I was like, hats off, dudes. That's good.
Cool.
So yeah, but I liked how yours though it was right up on that that 20th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights was coming, and it was perfect timing for it. I want to say the shots of the military planes, like the visuals, the camera angle from the planes when the aliens were chasing them, that was a great effect right there. As lo-fi as it was, it was perfect.
We took real F-16 footage and modeled it. And then I worked with a lot of the actors. So in all the Call of Duty sequences where you have the AC-130s and you see all the night vision and all the other kind of footage that's there, we modeled a lot of that same stuff we used for Call of Duty, for the voiceovers, for the thermal imaging, for the FLIR cameras. And there's a shot where you see a tail shot of actually dumping flares, and you see these other planes coming out, and it's out the tail of one of the planes. And that was actually a real shot that we all recreated in CG, because it was leaked footage from the military. And so we tweaked a lot of real footage to make it there, and just embellished it with our
the
ships.
monster sounds over the war footage in the beginning. I was like, this is great. This is great. I was like, you don't even need to show them. I know what's going on. I love that.
Real. All that footage is real, which is great.
That reminded me. I mean, the way your universe is set up, it almost reminds you of something like a cabin in the woods, where there's events happening in other places, all involving the same thing, and this is just a little peek of what is to come after the Phoenix incident.
Right, and that's what the other incidents are about, right? So the idea is that when you start to see the other incidents, and hopefully we'll have more experience making better films, more money, more and everything else that's there. But the idea is that there is something much bigger coming, and Phoenix was the beginning of this sort of series of events that's going to lead to a much bigger confrontation.
Yeah, so exciting! I can't wait. I cannot wait.
This, an expansive, a bigger world out there than just this one isolated incident. I really like that.
And you gotta flip the script on these people copying next time. You gotta trick Jake Paul into doing the video for you, because he'll think he's doing it. He'll think it's a Phoenix Forgotten. You might be able to get put a little Clay Turner reference in there. Although you have just a fishing rod on the ground, we would know. We're like, oh, that's what those guys were fishing. And oh yeah, why is there a trailer out here? And just don't even mention it. Like, what is this trailer? Don't go in there. We
don't talk about that trailer.
There's a bunch of car stuff everywhere.
Car stuff. Is this car stuff?
Well, it's definitely. It is definitely a fun experience, and I think what's going to happen now is that we're starting to see fan screenings going up, and we're starting to hopefully there'll be when people can start going to midnight movies again in theaters, and start to get the cult screenings going, and definitely the fans of Critical Role who have been following that, because a lot of the actors are in that, obviously. Matt Mercer, I don't know if you know who Matt Mercer is. He's the head of Critical Role. Matt does a ton of voices in the film. Brian Bloom's in the film. All those guys. There's not just their four guys, but almost all the other actors around them have done a lot of voiceover and game work. But if it becomes a little cult film, that's great, and it's, for me, it's just, little beginnings of making movies. But I think as things are changing now, especially because, movie theaters are changing and our society is really changing as a result. Streaming and video games are going through the roof right now because we're all at home. And so as a filmmaker, who knows, maybe there'll be an opportunity to, tell different kinds of stories moving forward. And this will be kind of that.
I'm more than excited. We really, that was one thing where I was like, we hadn't watched it when we were doing the stream. And when you had popped up and said, yeah, I'll be in here, I was like, oh boy, I hope we like this. We can be pretty brutal with some things. Let's whatever. But we usually don't plan a movie night for something that we think is going to be terrible. And yeah, we were absolutely.
We left that one up to the listeners to be like,
yeah, the listeners voted, and thank God they did. I don't think I would want to sit and watch Phoenix Forgotten after watching the Jake Paul viral campaign. But
no, I do remember when they voted on that one. I was like, yes, okay, good. That's the one I wanted to see.
Yeah, and because they voted, we got Keith here for this awesome interview, and it's awesome the way things work out sometimes. It's crazy.
That's super cool. Well, if you guys ever decide to do that again, please let me know. Because
absolutely.
And I think online screenings and That's a great way to do it.
That's a great way to do it. And if you got any breadcrumbs for what's ever to come, anytime, we'll be around. If you have a strange link we need to go find somewhere, because I'm really excited that that you're going to move on, hopefully, and make some more of this series. But before we go, and I'm going to throw to Rob for a little bit, because we have to talk a little bit about your just video game resume, because it is so insane. I know a lot of us have played a lot of the games you associated with. Call of Duty, I know you've directed the voice talent from the beginning. I've been playing those, yes, for years. My kids all grew up with Call of Duty and zombies. So, Rob, you have any questions?
Yeah, just, as a gamer, a huge gamer, and just a lover of games my whole life, I'm looking through some of the stuff that you've worked on, and a ton of games that I've enjoyed to play. So can you just tell us a little bit about working with Call of Duty from the beginning, and then over the years, the evolution of working with Call of Duty a little bit?
So I've worked on about 11 of the Call of Duty games over the years. I got involved at the end of Call of Duty 1. They were just wrapping that one up, and before the franchise had really taken off. And they needed some strategic help to how to work with actors, how to restructure their scripts, and doing all the performances and the talent. And as a result of that, I was casting a lot of sound-alike types. This guy from Saving Private Ryan, and this guy from Thin Red Line, and this guy from Band of Brothers, and this guy from this. And in the middle of casting for Call of Duty 2, I got this really angry call from this agent who represented one of the celebrities from Band of Brothers, who I was trying to get a sound alike for, right?
Wow.
But
he is a sound actor, sir. Yeah.
Well, and at the time, Call of Duty wasn't this big giant franchise, right? It just hadn't taken off. That team had come from Medal of Honor when they were on EA, and then they moved over.
And the video game industry as a whole too was really, it's come so far since then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I started, years ago when I was at Virgin and Electronic Arts. And there's a kind of a joke in the game industry that you never really leave the game industry. You just change booths at E3, because that's the thing. You just go from company to company to company and go back again. And we've all worked with the same guys, and all of us own our own companies now, because, it's a small industry. As big as it seems, we all pretty much know each other. And so, yeah, so we didn't have much of a budget for actors, and I definitely didn't have a budget for celebrities. And but this celebrity, really had seen my other projects, my other games, and really wanted to work with me, and was willing to work for the same price as what we were offering the regular actors. And as a result, he was friends with the entire cast, because he had been one of the stars of Band of Brothers, this guy James Madio, and Jimmy brought on everybody, Michael Cudlitz and Rob Grimes, and everybody from the whole cast came on board.
So cool.
And I think that Spielberg and Hanks were trying to make a Band of Brothers game, from what I heard, and they couldn't get it off the ground. And here suddenly Call of Duty 2 is the whole cast of Band of Brothers.
Is Band of Brothers the game, technically.
Yeah. And a few of the main stars dropped off just because they couldn't do it for that money, even though they wanted to. And that took off, and then we did Call of Duty 2 and Big Red One and Call of Duty 3, and then went on to Modern Warfare, and then Modern Warfare 2 is where we kind of hit our stride on Modern Warfare 2 is like the pinnacle of that. But during that time, my friends over at Treyarch, because I had been doing a lot of the Tony Hawk games, and I worked with Neversoft and those guys, and then Treyarch was doing a lot of the ports for Spider-Man and for Tony Hawk, and I did all those games, and I did Tony Hawk 2 and 3 and 4 and all those games. And
Great games. As far as voice talent too, were you still doing it to the point where the Jackass crew had basically taken over when it got to
some of the best
Thug
soundtracks, some of the best musical soundtracks too of all time on any video games are those.
It was fun. Some of those were really hard because I wrote some music, but we were also licensing all this great music. And as a result, because I was the sound guy on platforms like the Nintendo, which didn't have any space. Oh, yeah. And on the PlayStation, you could just stream it off the disc, but the Nintendo had a cart. So I had to cut up all these music, these music tracks from the Chili Peppers and everybody else, and then try to make loops and then try to remix their songs. And I was a musician, so at least I could pay it some justice, but it was so hard on these old game systems to make it sound good.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I ended up, I scored a game called Ridge Racer 64 for the N64.
Yes,
and
I know it.
But Nintendo put it out, right? And so instead of this little 2 meg cart or a 4 meg cart, it was a 32 meg cart. So all the music was digital. I sound like a geek, but what was amazing about this was that I could stream all my music as opposed to make it little cheap MIDI music, which we had to do on the other systems. So it won all these awards, and everyone loved all this music. Like, how did you do this music on a Nintendo? And I'm like, because Nintendo paid for it and we just got a lot of space. It was like back in the day, that was everything, And so it was fun. I mean, humble beginnings for doing that stuff. And so as Call of Duty took off, then suddenly I'm doing Ghost Recon and Rainbow Six and SOCOM. And at one point I was the sports guy. So I was doing all the Tony Hawk games and Kelly Slater and all the sporting games. And then I was the racing car game because I did Ridge Racer and I was doing Gotham and all those racing games. And then I did Call of Duty, and then suddenly I was the Call of Duty guy. But the teams that I work with and the guys who created all these franchises, it's just amazing to work with so many different teams, because I mainly work with the actors. I work with all the celebrities or the voice actors and the motion capture and facial capture and all sorts of different things. And then we work with them on the studios here, on the stages, and all the story elements. That's where we really work with. But these games, we'll work on them for 2-3 years at a time. And so every year they just keep getting bigger and bigger. We have a whole bunch of new games that just got announced. The new Yakuza game just got announced. It's the first time it's been in English.
Cool.
I'm excited to dig into that series. I really am.
That game was awesome. Like a totally different world, but hilariously difficult and crazy to develop, but really fun and neat, over the top game. But there's this game that we did years ago called Sleeping Dogs that this other team saw. And then
so good,
we did
Sleeping
Judgment.
Dogs.
And it's all these same people that they don't work together, but they're all influenced. Like, because of Sleeping Dogs, that's why I did Judgment, and Judgment is why I did Yakuza. And Yakuza, we got to reanimate and do all this stuff with the faces, so it's all in English now. And
you guys are really doing some state-of-the-art stuff with the recording methods. It looks like you're really taking it to the next level as far as these guys aren't just in a little recording booth, an isolation booth now recording their voiceovers. They're really acting together and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff where Jim Cameron was doing all this stuff for Avatar on these stages down here in Los Angeles. And so I was directing on those same stages, and I worked with all Jim's guys. And I'm also friends with Sam Worthington and all the actors from the film, and Slang, Stephen Lang, and all the guys who are in the movies. So I was talking to the actors about their experience, and I'm also talking with Jim's guys who are doing the motion capture and everything else. And Jim, had a much bigger budget, but he's basically doing what we're doing in video games, right? He's got real-time playback and motion capture and doing stuff, but on a much, much larger scale. So taking a beat for that, Sam Worthington was telling me about this nightmare of this helmet that they had to wear, because he had to wear a helmet that's tracking his face and his voice and his eyes and markers and his body. And it's so hard for actors to act through technology, because if you're surrounded with all this stuff and you're supposed to be emotional, it's like you're just kind of acting through all that. And so what you realize is in video games, we Frankenstein everything. We put together the voice, we put together the body and all the stunts and the facial animation and all the stunts. Everything has to be Frankenstein together to make these performances. So to expect an actor to do it like an actor does on set, who has other actors to work with and props and makeup and lighting and costumes and everything to work with. If you're on a green screen set or a motion capture set or a voiceover booth, you got nothing. And you have to imagine all this stuff. And it's up to directors and other people to kind of make that come to life. And so that's what I kind of have focused a lot of my career on with working with talent, is sort of helping make the technology disappear and letting the actors focus on the performance, getting them off of headphones, letting them just perform naturally, letting them work together, letting them act in space and run around and lift things and yell over their shoulder. And actually, when they're holding a weapon, it sounds different when someone is actually doing that. And so now my wife and I actually teach technical video game classes for actors. We teach at USC, and we did stuff for CalArts and a lot of other universities. Some of these guys, actually, Jimmy Mario from Band of Brothers and Call of Duty, he just brought me in to teach at a university that he teaches at. And so it's really nice to be able to see that there's this whole new generation of people that are growing up just seen video games as another form of entertainment, not just like, oh, this is for kids and this is like Mario and doing little things. I mean, this is actually, if you look at Last of Us and you look at Judgment and you look at these games and Sleeping Dogs, they're pretty emotionally driven, big narrative games. And you need the performances to be there. So for us to get to play and, you know, start making movies and doing stuff, and it's fun just because like it's us just kind of on the weekend going out and being able to do something. But the games that we're working on now and some of the projects that are coming out this year that'll be out for Christmas are just so phenomenal. So I'm excited to see where our industry is going to keep going, especially as a result of us everybody being home sheltered for so long.
Sitting there cracking their brains at home.
When are they going to do some aliens in Call of Duty? I'm trying to kill some hordes of aliens, just like we do with the zombies.
There was actually in Call of Duty, I was actually worried about it because while I was making the movie, what was it? It was in Ghosts. The DLC for Call of Duty Ghosts was this whole alien mission, like all alien mission. And a lot of it was like stuff very similar to our movie. It was totally different, but it was like there's similar stuff. And it was actually really, really good. But so they did kind of explore it there, but you had to get the DLC stuff to play.
Yeah. I kind of do remember it now that you're saying that. But yeah, part of me has just been waiting for them to do something with aliens for so long, just like a cool alien storyline. I love that franchise.
I'm supposed to play. My daughter is trying to get me to play Alien Isolation tonight.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
And I'm a huge Alien fan. I mean, I told you earlier, but I am like a uber geek for that movie. And so to go back into that kind of world as a game, you know, and put it up on here because, you know, we've got like 12-foot screens and other things. So we're going to kind of put it up in the big screen with all the surround sound and just scare the pants off.
So awesome. That game is terrifying, by the way. You're going to have a blast.
So good.
I've heard you mentioned being friends with Jim Cameron. I just want to say I saw you referred to on Reddit as the James Cameron of video games. So I don't know.
I actually don't know.
Have you ever heard that before?
I did hear that, and I think, you know, I appreciate it because I think what Jim does is the same thing that I do, is the sense that, you know, we're inventing technology to make the performances better. And one of the things that I really admire about Jim is that he all of his projects, he pushes the envelope so hard. And I know how many people were like, you know, saying, you know, about how Avatar was going to fail and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, have you ever seen a Jim Cameron film fail ever? You know, he's always won every film, from True Lies to any obscure film that you would say, oh, that's a Jim Cameron film. Every film has always done well. And so even with Avatar, and I'm, you know, eager to see some of the new stuff, because I know so many people who are on both sides of that. And it's this thing that's going to be so epically big. But Jim really, when it comes to the actors, he really defends the actors and really pushes, because he realizes that those guys are the heart and soul of his films. And I'm friends with like Lance Henriksen, and Lance worked on my Infex project, which is my new one that's coming out next. And I have it's based on a graphic novel I did, and it's a TV show and a game that's coming up.
Cool.
And Lance was telling me all these stories, because Lance was supposed to be the original Terminator, and he didn't know that Jim really wanted him to do that. And he did the original pitch for that. And so Lance is telling me all these amazing stories about Jim. And then Sam Worthington tells me all of his stories about him. And then I keep hearing all these different things. I worked with Ed Harris on Black Ops 1, and he's telling me all this stuff working on The Abyss, and how we almost drowned working with Jim on The Abyss. And it's weird because, you know, I've never worked with Jim on a project, but I feel like I know him really well from all the other actors that we work together with. And it's fun because all these actors that I get to work with, everyone sees them as iconic movie stars, but they're just super uber talented people that have just found a career, and they're just amazing people to work with. And the reason they work so well and so long is because they don't get caught up in all their fame. Mm-hmm. You know, you look at someone like Gary Oldman, and he's like the coolest guy because he's just awesome to work with. And he's not like he's some rock star that you just want to follow him around like a lost puppy dog. Like, this dude is like, he deserves everything he has because he's just amazing at what he does.
Totally. So for Lance Hendrickson, was Bishop his consolation prize for not being the Terminator?
Probably, like, I think just if you know, Jim likes to work with a lot of the same people, and Lance is one of the coolest guys. Like, Lance just is genuinely cool. He's an artist. He told me he did you ever see the movie Near Dark? If you haven't seen this movie, it's this obscure film that one of Jim's his previous wives had directed, I believe. I think Bigelow did. And anyway, it's got I think he was an executive producer on it, maybe. But anyway, it's called Near Dark, and it's got Lance, it's got Bill Paxton in it, and it's got like 2 or 3 of the other guys that were in like Terminator and Aliens. And it's this awesome vampire movie, and so Lance is telling me all these stories about them like staying in costume and driving through the desert after filming to get a beer, and they're covered in blood and they got vampire teeth, and it's vicious movie. It's really vicious, and they're scaring the crap out of these locals out in the Arizona desert, dressed as vampires.
There you go.
So,
That's awesome.
I need to check this out.
More people getting
I'm
it in the
surprised
desert.
I haven't yet. That's great.
Before we go, though, I think you have something kind of related to our stuff. You have a new VR game, right? A new horror-related VR experience that you worked on?
Face Your Fears? Oh, I did that about 2 years ago. And Face Your Fears 2, right?
Yes, Face Your Fears 2.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I don't think I actually got to see the finished product. We saw it in development while we were doing it, working with all the actors. VR has been really interesting because we always knew that VR was going to kind of hit this glass ceiling because not enough people would have headsets. And the real high-end VR is just too expensive to have at home. So if you ever seen like Hologate has these amazing $100,000 systems that they put in like shopping malls.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
And then you can play multiplayer shooters, and it's 90 frames a second with these gorgeous Vive VR goggles. And that's how you should experience VR. I mean, it's really cool. There's a thing called the Raft that's like this really cool thing that the guys from my friends over at
that's a survival game, I believe, right? The Raft?
It's a survival game like on a raft, and you're like going down this swamp, this bayou swamp, shooting at aliens and stuff like that.
Oh, that's
But
nice.
it's really cool because you're wearing a backpack and you can move around a room and other things like that. So really, really well done VR is unbelievable, but it's so hard to go and see it. It's too expensive. You got the Void and Dreamscape and Spaces and all these other VR location-based ones you can do, but no one's going to go out and do it now, obviously. But even before this, it's expensive and it's difficult. And I worked on maybe 30, 40 VR things. I was working on like Star Trek Bridge Crew, and we did the Werewolves game, and we did Kung Fu Panda VR, and then we got nominated for the Emmy for Voltron VR, and no one saw them. They were great
no one
projects.
has it, yeah.
And, no one had it. So I was like, it's great technology. I love the work, and it's awesome to get to work on these really cool games. But like, if people don't get to see it, then why are they spending so much money hiring us to do this stuff, and then it just goes away? So we're hoping that there's some
I know
new
my
stuff
own
coming.
son. Yeah, my own son this morning. Let me know that for Christmas he wants a Oculus Rift or one of them. He definitely wants a VR headset, and he's putting it in my head now. It's not even August.
He's warming you up already.
I think VR is actually doing a little bit better now because people are at home and they have more time. Because a lot of people didn't have time to sit down and be isolated in a set. But the promise of real VR, like good VR, it's there. It's just, but bad VR, stuff that has poor frame rates and a small narrow field of view, it just gets you motion sick. And people are like, oh, I tried it, I didn't like it. And it's like, well, it's because you didn't try it the right way. And I understand it. If I've tried games that are in development, and if it's not implemented right, I don't really get motion sick, but I'll get like a raging headache for like hours if it's bad VR.
Yeah. I've seen video of people trying VR, and maybe it works too well, but they end up kicking furniture over, breaking things, breaking their limbs. So
yeah,
I guess there's that to take.
Breaking their televisions. Yeah.
So maybe it works a little too well. You gotta. Yeah, hopefully it'll be able to let you know if you're going to run into a surface. But it is really exciting. This is it's a new kind of field to invest in. We'd never anticipated spending this much time indoors, and so
It's actually perfect for VR. You're
might
right.
be the time for it. Yeah.
Just need more. They just need to make more petting animals games, or
there you go.
I don't put a true crime mystery game together. You can get like 50% of the population immediately going out and buying them if you just throw true crime on it. Yeah, and then you can bet a horse also. And
I mean, what about an alien abduction VR game?
Yeah, I'm saying that to get the consoles out, because we want the alien killers.
Yeah,
and I don't know, some big chested women running around or something for us too. Give us a little something. It doesn't have to be perfect, just something.
Well, we're definitely working on some fun stuff, and the nice thing is that now that I've done enough projects that I've had a lot of people who are now coming to me to invest and invest in my own projects. And Phoenix was obviously like my film school, but now the idea is that I'm able to do larger projects. So what I'm hoping is taking a lot of this experience from all these big, great games I've been fortunate enough to be able to work on, and then use some of that experience to do my own things. And so this new project Infex we're doing is going to be fun. I've got this other film, the Alien sequel that we're going to do for Phoenix. And I've got 2 other films that are right behind that. So I'm hoping over the next 3 or 4 years, then, my film career will start to kind of take off in a new direction. But I think theaters and other kinds of ways of traditional distribution are going to change. So I think streaming and other things are going to be a lot more open for new filmmakers like myself. So hopefully that's where my future will be.
I see great things for PCB Productions. You guys are doing awesome stuff over there. So
we'll watch your film career we'll watch with great interest. So before we go, do you have anything you want to say or plug?
Any social medias or anything like that?
Yeah, well, if you guys are interested in following us, our website is pcb.cc or pcbproductions.com. And we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at PCB Productions and PCB Entertainment. And then my handle is Keith Arem, just Keith_Arem. And I mean, I always respond to our mail. I always respond to stuff. Like, we're at a Comic-Con every year, except for this year, which is sad. But every year we're out there and people are like, you're not supposed to go out there and be with the fans. You're supposed to stay back and act like whatever. And like, no, it's like, it's, this audience, like, and what you guys are doing, and just, the way that the audiences are right now, it's amazing, that the audience has the ability to work with filmmakers and video game professionals and actors and have a say, and I think that's it's an amazing time, because I think those celebrities and those filmmakers and those people creating stuff wouldn't be there if it wasn't for an audience, and the audience obviously wants new content and be able to have a voice in that. And you're starting to see social media and the audiences really influence a lot of the filmmakers' decisions. And as a creator, you want to create something that's passionate to yourself. You don't want to do something just for the marketability to sell out to the audiences. But it is neat that while you're working on something, that the audiences can be vocal and play a part in that. And then definitely it's even better to do things like this, where you just get to meet people and talk about what you did, just to geek out about it. Because it's not about the ego. Like, it's like, for me, I'm just super passionate about just getting to play, just have an opportunity to do this, because I don't know what else I would do with my life.
And I'd say Phoenix Incident, man, it just, you can tell that there's a lot of passion behind it, and we love it. We love it a lot. I want everyone to go check out that app too, and Rob's going to get to the bottom of that, find all the little clues in there. And it's been really an honor talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on. And I don't know, hopefully we'll speak again. Maybe we'll send you some breadcrumbs too.
That would be awesome. That would be very awesome. And there's one other project I'll tell you to check out for. Well, at least it'll give you an Easter egg for the new things. This project Infex that we're doing. If you have an iPad, it's not on any other platforms yet, but if you have an iPad, look up INFEX, and there's a comic book that's there, and that will give you some breadcrumbs as to the next project and get a insight. Nice. There you go.
Cool. All right, he's got his ready.
I'm on it.
All right. You will see the humble origins of what we did with the Phoenix app, but it's fun, and the comic is there. So and some people that we talked about are involved in that one too. So you'll enjoy that. But guys, thank you so much for inviting me today, and thank you for screening the film last week. That was an unexpected honor. So
all right. All just
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Awesome, guys. Well, enjoy, and if you guys ever want to talk about anything else, just hit me up and we'll plan a time.
Oh, we definitely will.
Awesome.
We definitely will.
Thanks so much, Keith.
All right, cool, guys. All right, be well. Take care.
The Phoenix Lights.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Such a fun interview. Thanks again, Keith, for coming on. That was amazing.
That was so fun. I knew he had an impressive resume, but holy crap, he can do like anything, all of the fields that we're interested in. He knows something about.
Yeah, everything he drops. I mean, he was in the band Biohazard and Contagion, and he's been in all these great, just done so much work on all these great video games, and made the best of all ever Phoenix Lights found footage horror documentary films. And I'm so excited there's more, that he's gonna set his whole viral campaign up again and reboot. And
Yeah,
keep going.
I think that it's fair that we call him the champion of the Phoenix Lights at this point.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough how cool the app is that they're selling, that they put together. I'm just saying, you can watch the movie right now when you download the app. It comes with the movie built into it.
And then, you were not paid to say any of this.
We're not paid to say any of this. It's
Promo
really,
code Unbelievers.
It's really cool. I just want to say, I'm going to play with it later. It's $10. It's $9.99.
Okay,
one
it's
easy
not
payment.
3 easy payments?
Yeah.
Okay.
You get the complete film, yeah, I think, from having the app, but you get all the bonus stuff and go all down the little rabbit holes of breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs! I love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm eat them all up. Rob's loving them.
I
over there.
love breadcrumbs. Delicious.
All right, well, this was amazing. I hope we can get him back one day to talk about some future alien fun movie project.
Oh, yeah, we should have him on to talk about something that has nothing to do with what he does, because he was
just
so
get him on to
laid
goof
back
on,
in general.
just goof on Turner Clay. And
have him talk about Bigfoot. Why not?
Yeah, it gave me an excuse to talk to him about video games and Call of Duty, so I'm down to talk to him anytime.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we got a couple more things to do. No, we're running a little long this week, but we got a couple we haven't done last week. So let's get into Unbelievers voice mailbag.
The Unbelievers mailbag.
Ooh, right in the mailbag.
Hey man, check your mailbox.
Hey, you got some new mail over here.
Mailbag. The mailbag is cool. Mailbag.
Sup, bitches? It's mail time.
Woo! Yes. Good to hear him again, everybody. Yeah, send us in. And this is the end of July, and I said I'll do the little soundboard contest. I don't know if we got any this week, but after this episode, I'm going to go back. I'm going to listen to all the ones that came in last month. I'm going to pick 3 winners. Got some cool stuff to send you out. But Rob, what do we have this week from the voice mailbag?
Yeah, we got one. We got one this week. So yeah, let's check it out.
Hey guys, Nunchuck Bop here. I just called to say I love you guys, and God bless you, Dr. People. Okay, keep chucking. Bye.
Yes!
Fuck yeah.
Thank
I
you
love
so
that.
much. I feel like I can hear the nunchucks in his hands, too. Something clicking around.
I know,
there.
right? He's just like constantly just moving them around in his hands and like just nervously wrestling them around. He doesn't sound nervous.
He's got a send-off now. Keep on chucking. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I thought I was going to, I love it so much. That's
Everyone get yourself a sign off. And yeah, make sure, this is the last week, of course, of the little soundboard competition. That was a great one. That's definitely in the running.
Dude, this is going to be a really close call, right?
Any good, God bless you, Dr. Peebles. Yeah, that might be the one that ends up on our permanent soundboard. We'll see. So yeah, make sure you give us a call, 469-420-0114. And that's it. Let's get out of this. Yeah. Unbelievers voice mailbag.
The Unbelievers mailbag.
Ooh, right in the mailbag.
Hey man, check your mailbox.
Hey, you got some new mail over here.
Mailbag. The mailbag is cool. Mailbag.
Sup, bitches? It's mail time.
Yeah, the bumpers were longer than the actual mailbag. All right, you got to step it up, guys. We need some more mailbags.
You didn't have to like put that under a microscope, but okay.
That's what we do. But we just got one more thing to do, and this is the definite everyone's favorite segment, poll results. This week's poll, what would you call Southern Bigfoot? And the choices were Booger
Old Mossyback, the Raggedy Man, Wild Woman, or other? I'm going to ask you, Drea Mora, what do you think the Unbelievers said?
Booger.
All right, how about you, Rob?
Well, Wild Woman is already taken because that's Dre's nickname, so it's not that.
Listen, I've been tamed.
I'm going to say Booger. Gotta love that Booger.
All right, both going in. Well, congratulations, both of you, with 14.29%.
Yes.
People really all in for Booger, so Booger takes it. But, of course, there are others. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Call him George. Signed, Mossyback Skunk Dick. Thank you. Thank you, Mossyback Skunk Dick. Call him George. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Life effing sucks right now. The world does not deserve you, Rob, Drea, and Ryle. Signed, Crazy Uncle. Oh, thank you so much, Crazy Uncle. What'd you call me there? What?
Ryle Russell Ryan. I said his name backwards.
All right. Thank you, Crazy Uncle. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? I done boogered in my pants. 3 testicles is a curse. I don't know why I read that in the Southern accent. They didn't sign off. Thank you.
Bigfoot. They didn't sign off.
I don't know. Maybe their name is
damn
3
it.
Testicles is a curse. Thank you, 3 Testicles is a curse. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? We don't know. So you better ask Wild Woman. Why would you put paint on your face, guy? Okay, that's his name. Why would you put paint on your face, guy? So go ask Wild Woman.
Ask women.
Okay, that makes sense.
We don't know.
There we go. From why would you what?
And just to clarify, Dave, about why you'd want to put it on your face.
All right, very good. Yeah, why would you put paint on your face, guy? What would you call Southern Bigfoot? This is all caps. Nothing! There are no Southern Bigfoot! We already discussed this! Signed, Corrupted Mask. I don't know, Corrupted Mask. Seems like there's a lot of them. What would you call...
How angry he got.
He got really angry there. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? West Coast Patty would make the South Coast skunk ape peek out from behind her bush. Signed, Pants Filler. Okay, Patty. So Patty would make the South Coast skunk ape peep out from her bush? What's he doing?
Here is Sasquatch peeking out from behind a bush.
Should I feel offended? I don't get it.
I don't know. I think there's something mutual going on there. Thank you so much to... What's this guy doing? Is he...
Be throwing up and filling my pants.
All right. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? He just went out for milk and cigarettes and never came back. Signed, Phil McCracken. Oh, no. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Again, caps. Nothing. There are no Southern Bigfoot. I already told you. Signed, Corrupted Mask. Again. I don't know how he's getting it.
He's
He
really
really
good.
wants us to know there are none. All right, Corrupted Mask. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Daddy. And he didn't sign off. What would you
sign off?
Damn, you should have signed off. You would have won.
What would you call Southern Bigfoot? It not good to war on other tribe? Signed Rococo Style. Rococo Style. Oh, he stayed on theme. Do we have that clip, Rob? Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
Shit, I know Brian might have had it, but it was towards the end. So
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
got it.
All right, we'll try to find it. Thank you. Yeah, I'll say it for you. It not good to war on other tribe? There you go, Rococo Style. Did my best. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? I know this piece of shit. His name is Dave. He's an asshole. Signed, Unbeliever Braden. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that Dave. That Southern Bigfoot Dave. I don't know why I like that. I like that one a lot. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Old Matt Mossyback can sure fill a bowl. I mean, he damn near blew it off the table. Signed, Southern Harley Warren. No, it's just Southern Harley Warren. Getting his bowl in, of course.
We went to this room. There was this bowl on this table, and I was supposed to ejaculate into the bowl.
All right,
See, I
thanks,
thought that
Harley
was-
Warren.
I thought that was really his sign-off, Southern Harley Warren. You got
That's his new one. Yeah, he's Southern Harley Warren. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Finally! Signed, Kentucky Fried Squatch. Yeah, Kentucky Fried Squatch. He's been
There
on
you
Poll
go.
Results a bunch. He's happy to finally be in there. I love
That's
it.
why you guys were so confused all this time.
It's him. He screwed me up probably. I probably have him written on some... Damn it. All right, good one, KFS. We love it. What would you call a Southern Bigfoot with so many Southern Squatch? You have to say, whoa, whose babies are these? I bet Pervy Leonard is their dad. No. Signed, Left-Handed Buckle Grabber. Oh, man. So you're thinking that the Southern Squatch is saying...
Whoa, whose babies are these?
And we remember Pervy Leonard, of course. He is from the Bigfoot erotic novel series. That's the erotic Bigfoot. It's very problematic. But thank you so much to this guy has a sign off.
I remember gripping my belt buckle with my left hand, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was too. Good job, left-handed buckle grabber. What would you call Southern Sasquatch, Blue Jean Bayou Bigfoot? Bet he could use some new fishing sneakers. Signed the Wombat Preservationist. I bet he could. And he'd be so excited he'd say,
brought some new fishing sneakers.
Thank you, Wombat Preservationist. What would you call Southern Bigfoot? Y'all, this episode had more booger references than a Captain Underpants books, and that's credible to me. Signed Blue Box UFO. And yeah, I know those, but I had to go see that Captain Underpants movie. Boy, you ain't lying. A lot of booger references in there. And that, to him, what?
There's something credible going on here.
Yes, there is.
But let me give him the original. I'll give him the original.
Give him the real one? All right, give him the real one.
So far, this one comes up credible to me.
There you go. A good one, Blue Box UFO. And finally, what would you call Southern Bigfoot? Cleftfoot. Signed Voodoo. That's pretty good. That way, yeah, he doesn't sound so inbred. Like they made Cleftfoot. He's just a Cleftfoot Bigfoot. I like that one a lot.
That's pretty good.
Those last ones always make you think. There's so many great ones tonight. We had Mossy Back Skunk Dick with Call Him George. We had the Crazy Uncle with Life Effing Sucks Right Now. The World Does Not Deserve You, Rob, Dre, and Ryle. Thank you. We had Why Would You Put Paint on Your Face Guy with We Don't Know, so you better ask Wild Woman or Wild Women. We never gave him an Ask Women for that. I think he wanted an Ask Women. Maybe give him a belated one.
Right.
Should I give him an Ask Women right now?
Give it to him. Yes,
We'll throw him an Ask Women.
Ask Wild Women.
In fact, Russell Ryan's on here saying, yeah, ask women.
All right, there you go. You get a little bonus one there. Why'd you put paint on your face, guy? We caught it. Whoa. We had Corrupted Mass with Nothing, There Are No Southern Bigfoot. We discussed this. Yeah, he did that a couple times. We had Pants Filler with West Coast Patty would make the South Coast Skunk Ape peek out from behind her bush. We had Phil McCracken with He Just Went Out for Milk and Cigarettes and Never Came Back. We had Rococo Style with It Not Good to Go War on Other Tribe. Yeah, you know what I mean. Oh, we had Unbeliever Braden with, I know this piece of shit. His name is Dave. He's an asshole. We had Harley Warren with Old Mossy Bag Sure Can Fill a Bowl. I mean, he damn near blew it off the table. We had Kentucky Fried Squatch with Finally. I like that one a lot. Left-handed Buckle Grabber. Yeah, with so many Southern Squatch, you have to say, whoa, whose babies are these? I bet Pervy Leonard is their dad. Wombat Preservationist, Blue Jean Bayou Bigfoot. Bet he could use some new fishing sneakers. Yeah, I like thinking about Bigfoot and those blue jeans. Thanks for bringing that image back. Blue Box UFO had, y'all, this episode had more booger references than a Captain Underpants book, and that's credible to me. And finally, Voodoo with Cleft Foot. So many great ones. I'm going to leave it up to Rob Oakey this week. Rob, who you got?
Oh, my favorite one, just because it rolls off the tongue so well, the Bayou Blue Jeans. If you could give me the Bayou Blue Jeans one more time, I think that's the winner right there.
All right. Well, congratulations. I don't think he's won yet this season. He's always coming through big time. So congratulations with Blue Jean Bayou Bigfoot. Bet he could use some new fishing sneakers. Wombat Preservationist. You just won this week's poll results. All right. We've come to the end of the program. Before we go, Drea Mora, do you have anything you'd like to say or plug?
Yeah, you can follow my new podcast at Spirits and Spirits Pod. That's on Instagram, and we're also on Twitter at Ghost Drinkers.
Awesome. Everybody go check that out. It's a great show. What about you, Rob?
I would say check out our Twitch, twitch.tv/The Unbelievers Podcast. We've been doing some fun stuff on there. I've been playing Destroy All Humans, the new release that just came out, in my free time. And on Friday nights, we do party hangout where we watch funny videos. And yeah, you should come hang out with us in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put that out there too. And yeah, go check out the Twitch stream. I think we might be, I don't know if we're doing it this Friday, but we're definitely going to be doing a movie night on Saturday night, I believe. I think we're doing a little hybrid action on Saturday night. Correct, Rob?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm moving this week, So it'll be my first
awesome.
night after moving into a new place, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, it should be. We'll check it out. We'll figure out what movie we want to do. If you guys got any suggestions after you hear this, hey, you got a couple days, let us know. That's it. I'm just going to plug, just go check out all the Keith stuff. Go check out that movie if you haven't watched Phoenix Incident yet. It's a lot of fun. And thanks
check
again to
out
him
all
for
of
coming
his
on.
stuff. Yeah,
All of it. Play
so
all the
much to
games.
check out, so
play them all.
Yeah.
The Unbelievers podcast host today were Drea Mora and me, Russ Ryan. Our producer and soundboard engineer is Rob Oakey. You can join our Patreon by going to patreon.com/unbelieverspodcast. You can follow the show on Twitter at unbelieverspod and Instagram at unbelieverspodcast. Our Facebook group is the Unbelievable Podcast Network. Check out our merch store at cafepress.com/unbelieverspodcast. And thank you so much to all our great patrons: JT Spranklin, Vic Vass, Robert Groom, Little BB, Dr. Ortega, Tyler Ventura, Adam Devora, Corrupted Mass, Michael Phillips, Weary Exile, Carol Valley, Manny, MQ, Ultra, CJP, Braden Hitt, Raymond Noel, Todd X, Christopher Pedici, The Moon, Mike Henry, Bryce Cronenberg Jr., The Judgy Moon, haha, John Bright, Shannon Ferrigno, Tom O'Connell, Mark Braun, Donna Bance, Jenna Stevens, Cat Chaos, Jason Kelly, and Mike, and Brian Ashton, Michael Armenta, Jackass, The Wombat Preservationist, our big winner for tonight. Our official composer and theme song creator is Unbeliever A.A. Ron, a.k.a. Aaron Schilb. Go check out his Nashville Tour Stop podcast. Our official graphic designer and card maker who designed our logo is Raymond Rowell. Check out his work at P. Raven Creative on Twitter and Project Raven Creative on Instagram. Our official resident Sagittarius is Kozanton. Our official madman is Unbeliever Adam. Our official Mothman enthusiast is Michael Shields. Our official Unbelievers MUFON Inside Man is Chris De Moraes. Our official Unbeliever peacefully eating a hamburger is Michelle Durham. Our official Unbelievers Time Traveler is Taylor Nelson. Our official Ghost Hunter is Amelia Childs in Ghost Hunting in New England. Our official Senior European Correspondent is Kay Mill of the I Don't Know podcast. Our official Guardian of the Bench is at Kraken Stacker. Our official Alien Bopper is Nunchuck Bob. And this week's Unbeliever focus is Timothy Dorsett, who was ecstatic that we got Keith Aram for the show. He promised that if he ever ran into Keith at a convention, he would take a picture with him for us. He'd be sure to say
1, 2, and balls.
All right, good night. Thanks.
Discontinue.